2022 has been an interesting and unique year so far. Oh my kidding, it's not so far, it's already done. COVID-19 pandemic is fading away and becoming obsolete. Henry Cavill is no longer Superman. Argentina beat France in the finals of the World Cup in Qatar, becoming the most watched and unique season in FIFA history. Also, this has been a great year for cinema, getting its redemption after the awful 2 years it has been dealing with. The world of movies has been in tough spots since the coronavirus. This includes some films failing the box office. Streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max became on the rise with subscriptions and allowed us to watch films at home safely. But they made us to become distant from having theater experience, especially having audience reaction that brings us together. The only films that overcame such challenges were Dune and Spider-Man No Way Home. We had a full theater experience watching No Way Home with audience reaction, regardless of masks being worn inside. We were brought with nostalgia, emotions, and high-quality visuals. It was one-of-a-kind experience, bringing our spirits up as an escape from the real world. But that was it. I felt like the past 2 years relied more on franchises, superheroes, and CGI for content creation, both movies and shows in MCU and DC. I missed the pre-COVID days without being worried 24/7 of catching the virus, and I missed quality films without relying heavily on CGI and visual effects. The last time we had a year of great films was 2019. You got Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Jojo Rabbit, if you want to add in the CGI and having a quality film, Avengers Endgame. Those were unique films with everything. You got the story, the score, the drama, the acting, the cinematography. In the past few years, cinema relied more on the presentation, marketing, and money than the story. Here's an example. Thor: Love and Thunder. It disappointed me, and I'm pretty sure everyone expected better and more from that movie, but it didn't. The only thing that saved this movie was Christian Bale. But even with the bumpy roads, cinema is getting back piece by piece. 2022 has brought many quality films, and you get to watch them in the theaters once again, from original ideas to franchises bringing art of cinema. Movies recognized for their cinematography, acting, directing, score, story, and their message. People now get to sit in a packed theater depending on the film, eating popcorn, and enjoy the film without even worrying about the virus. Actors and actresses sealed their spot as the best of their generation with the likes of Austin Butler and Anya Taylor-Joy. 2022 is where we applaud for Robert Pattinson's performance as Batman, making me forget that he was in Twilight. It's where we celebrate the legacy of the legend Chadwick Boseman. And it's where Brendan Fraser made an Oscar-worthy performance and earned standing ovation for his role in Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. Let's not forget several movies achieving box office success. I'm not saying 2022 is one of the best years for cinema, but it's a great step of recovering from the dark times, regardless of the bumpy rides and obstacles they had to go through. And it opened the door for many expectations for 2023, with a lot of movies coming up. In this episode, I'm basically selecting the movies that to me sealed the redemption for cinema, whether box office, the theater experience with the audience, or even the film itself with its features. And I have 5 movies that saved cinema for me this year. So in a way, it's kind of a list, but not chronologically, of course. The films that I have selected is based on my experience and how I was able to have that quality time of watching the movies, whether it's basically at the theater or even on my own. One thing I will say, you just might spoil yourselves the films that you haven't watched and they're missing out. Anyways, so we're going to get to the 5 films that redeemed cinema for me this year. But first, I need some music with this talk, so can we please get some? Alright, here we go. So we're going to start with The Northman. Best features, natural cinematography, the cast, and directing style. This is the old school Lion King story where brother kills his brother for the throne and the son grows up and takes revenge. It's basically Hamlet. In fact, the story of Amleth was the sole inspiration of Shakespeare's Hamlet. The film follows Amleth avenging his father and looks at the historical timeline of Vikings and Norse mythology. We got to see crows, flames, wolves, Valkyrie, and visions of Valhalla. Eggers brought historians on the set to help make the film as accurate to the timeline as possible, even with the outfits and weapons. The cinematography relied on what's around them based on history like fire and natural daylights. The Northman was a historical epic, joining the likes of Lawrence of Arabia, Gladiator, and Spartacus, and I miss those kind of films. The Northman has Alexander Skarsgård as Amleth in The Thirst of Revenge with The Wrath of a Wolf. You got Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicole Kidman, Claes Bang, Ethan Hawke, and Willem Dafoe. Claes Bang was a badass villain and the embodiment of Scar. The Northman was the best version of Shakespeare's Hamlet, and it became one of my top 10 films of all time. I never thought I'd enjoy Robert Eggers' work after The Lighthouse. That film both lost me and annoyed me. But The Northman exceeded my expectations, and I owe Eggers an apology for that. He did a great job making this Viking epic. I can't recall the last time I heard of a good Viking film until now. It sucks that the film was a box office failure. It should earn more than what they've gotten. The Northman reopened the doors for historical epics and paved the way for potential Viking films in the future. The Northman completed Robert Eggers' trilogy, joining The Witch and The Lighthouse with all different genres. We then moved to Top Gun Maverick. Best features, the flying sequences, the drama, and the soundtrack. We got to see Tom Cruise as Maverick once again over 30 years. It brought nostalgia to the fans of the first film, and some who are not fans of it will enjoy the sequel as it has a lot to offer. Top Gun Maverick achieved in bringing the 80s aura to the current period. Tom Cruise is still a live-action badass, and the film still has the classics played in the saga like Danger Zone, the original theme music, and Great Balls of Fire performed by Miles Teller as Goose's son, Rooster, which was a perfect role for him. Val Kilmer reprised his role as Ice, and Jennifer Connelly stars as Penny and the love interest to Maverick. Just like the first film, there was no bad guy. They never needed one. The enemies in this movie are expectations in the past. Maverick's past continues to haunt him with the loss of his best friend Goose, and he deals with it as Rooster blames him for his father's death. And then you've got Hangman, who is the Apollo Creed to Rooster's Rocky. Each character in the film has good qualities, and no one is left behind in the story. Everyone played a part in this film as a team. Including myself, everyone enjoyed Top Gun Maverick. It exceeded our expectations, and to me, it's better than the original film as I enjoyed it a lot more. It was a feel-good movie as it ends with Maverick, Rooster, and Hangman settling all differences and working as an unstoppable team. And let's not forget Maverick and Penny riding off to the sunset with Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand playing in the ending credits. It's a great song and it earned a Golden Globe nomination for Best Original Song. This sequel was both commercial and box office success, beating the Batman and MCU films as the highest grossing film of 2022. With a worldwide gross of $1.5 billion, it surpassed Titanic to become Paramount's highest grossing film in North America, as rightfully so. Alright, the next one on the list, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Best features, tribute to Chadwick Boseman, emotional depth and drama, musical score, and the acting. After the unfortunate loss of Chadwick Boseman in 2020, the future of the Black Panther was in the air. We couldn't picture another King T'Challa, but the entire production brought us a love letter to Chadwick and an emotional eulogy for him. I'm glad no one replaced Boseman as the Black Panther, and his legacy continues to be celebrated. When the teaser and trailer were released, we knew we were about to be in for an emotional ride, and we got more than what we asked for. Wakanda Forever was emotional, and many who watched it were in tears from start to finish. King T'Challa is always remembered and mentioned. The MCU intro was dedicated to Chadwick Boseman with the purple color and no music as a moment of silence for the actor. They ended the film with memories of him and having the song Lift Me Up by Rihanna. This was a heartfelt song written as a tribute to Chadwick Boseman and a warm embrace for the people we miss and love. But it didn't end there. They continued to remember King T'Challa by revealing he has a son named after him, Prince T'Challa. This was the most beautiful ending and symbol of a new beginning, while continuing to celebrate the legacy of Chadwick. The film has a strong message on coping with grief. It could lead to rage and that would consume us to become vengeful, but if we step outside of rage, there would be peace like Shuri found in the end. Everyone did a great job with the roles. I enjoyed the development and the backstory of Namor, just like in the first film with Killmonger and his intentions. Ludwig Göransson's African-inflected score is unique. Angela Bassett gave an Oscar-worthy performance as Queen Mother and earned a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress, which she very well deserved. It's cool we got to see a Marvel film being recognized in the Golden Globes, and hopefully we see more of them, especially at the Academy Awards. Letitia Wright shined in this film as Shuri and the new Black Panther. She grew a lot with her character and showed to be one of the smartest and bravest in the MCU, joining Peter Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home. We know that MCU's Phase 4 sucked. Thor Love and Thunder was bad. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was more of a visual trip and multiverse journey. And Spider-Man No Way Home heavily relied on nostalgia, which was great, I loved it. But a story was needed in Phase 4, and this film had a story. Not only did it save Phase 4, Wakanda Forever was one of the best MCU films I've watched in a very long time. The movie sealed in introducing a new generation of superheroes in the MCU, such as Black Panther with Shuri and Ironheart. To best describe the film with it being a tribute to Chadwick, Tom Jorgensen of IGN said that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a meditation of forging one's own future out of a painful past, but with a plot that has to introduce an entirely new nation and pave the way for a new wave of Marvel stories. Another one on the list, All Quiet on the Western Front. Best features, cinematography, directing style, and anti-war message. This was the first German-speaking film I've watched, and apparently is the most expensive German film produced by Netflix. All Quiet on the Western Front is where dreams of becoming a hero are shattered by the false romantic view of the war. This is where patriotism can be the currency of chaos. The cinematography with blue and low light was lifeless, quiet, lost, and cold, which brought the atmosphere of the film achieved with minimalism. And speaking of minimalism, the film's original soundtrack builds up the story and the events. Edward Berger's directing style made me forget about the protagonist Paul Baumer. I was watching the war itself and how young soldiers must live with it throughout the journey. The film showed how World War I led Paul to experience loneliness, fear, and loss of touch in humanity. The film was not shy on showing the futility of war. It reminds us that nobody wins nor survives. The protagonist didn't win here and failed to survive as he got speared by the French soldiers during the final attack scene. This was different from the 1930 and 1979 versions where he cost his own life by seeing the beauty of it. The Netflix-produced film focused on the development of Baumer in the war, where he was full of joy and hope and ended only caring about survival. The only time we see happiness is when the characters talk about hope in returning home to their families and loved ones. But those are just broken dreams. World War I was supposed to be the one to end all wars, but that shit didn't happen. The film didn't want us to be in their shoes after watching the horror they had to experience. And it made us all question, was it all worth it? All Quiet on the Western Front is the best World War film to watch, and in general one of the best war films. To me, it's even better than Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk and Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. The film also earned a well-deserved Golden Globe nomination for Best Non-English Language Film. And last but not least on the lists, The Batman. Shocker! Another superhero movie, but this time it's DC. Best features, cinematography, the cast, directing style, and the music score. Here are the remedies of making The Batman: Taxi Driver atmosphere, Nirvana, and the Zodiac. The film was a cinematic superhero masterpiece. It brought suspense that will put you on the edge of your seat and uncertain on what's next with the Riddler's evil master plan. There were shock twists that fit the narrative, and with the original score, it brings panic for the audience, especially at the end of the film. When you mix Matt Reeves' directing style with Greg Fraser's cinematography, it brought iconic scenes in the film, like the Batman walking out of the fire, and him rescuing Gotham citizens from the flood. Robert Pattinson created his own version of The Dark Knight with a Kurt Cobain vibe of Bruce Wayne. His inability to communicate with people shows how he deals with grief and pain he carried as a child. Him being the Caped Crusader helped coping his emotions and process it to save Gotham. Zoe Kravitz showed more of Selena Kyle than her alter ego Catwoman. Colin Farrell was unrecognizable as Penguin. And Paul Dano brought the Riddler as this masterminded sociopath, Zodiac-like criminal. What about Andy Serkis as Alfred? The coolest version of the character as of yet. We can't deny that the Batman movies always have amazing soundtracks. Michael Giacchino's score is one of a kind, giving me the old school vibes of Mask of the Phantasm and Tim Burton's Saga of the Dark Knights. And these are my choices of films that I believed saved cinema in 2022. What's next after this? Pretty simple. Watch more films, especially in 2023, as there are so many films coming up. I mean, what's not to watch? For Marvel, we got Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm mostly excited about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. For sure, it's going to be great. I'm also excited about Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, starring Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Lawrence Pugh. It's one thing that Nolan is directing this, but it's another to have a film based on a massive nuclear explosion in World War II. Murphy playing as the father of the atomic bomb would probably earn him a Golden Globe and Oscar nomination. I can't picture how Nolan would reenact the Manhattan Project in a motion picture. And apparently they're going to use real explosives to recreate the Trinity nuclear test. I don't know if the film is going to be emotionally exhausting or leaves us speechless. But then again, it's Christopher Nolan, so it's going to be unexpected. And so many other great films coming up in 2023. You got Barbie, you got Creed 3, and also we got Aquaman 2. So there's a lot of great films to watch, and I'm all in for it. And that is a wrap for today's episode here on Films Unchained Podcast. Cinema is back, and can't wait for 2023. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening to this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and make sure to check out the full breakdown of the film with many episodes available on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, and many podcast platforms. Stay tuned for more content.